Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another scintillating edition of the Inworld Review. We're recording this and streaming it indeed on the 27th of December of the year 2014. Yeah, I have got it right, but there might be a problem next week. Yes, this is the last show of the year 2014. And knowing me, it will be June before I actually realise the year has changed when it comes to announcing it. But we will see what we will see. Anyway, I hope you had a good holiday season, however you celebrated it, or maybe didn't bother, or whatever. Hope you have had a good few days, and indeed, I hope you'll have a good few days coming up as the year turns, so to speak. Here in the UK, we London is fine, but apparently the rest of the country is covered in snow, and as usual, that means no railways, no motorways. All the transport systems are busted. Well, that's called advanced preparation for you, isn't it? Okay, well, welcome to the show, and we're broadcasting currently from Chilbo in Second Life. And I seem to have lost a picture on my monitor. I'll carry on anyway. But there it's back. We've got two sets of filming going on today. I'm running a backup, and Tara is actually streaming as I'm speaking. So that should all be fine. We are coming to you from Chilbo in Second Life. We're brought to you in association with AView TV. And in this program, we sort of look at news from the metaverse, the world of virtual worlds and interfacing technologies, and we discuss them a bit too, as well as bring you the news. Before I go any further, I'd like to introduce the crew that we've got aboard today. As usual, I'm joined on my left by Tara Yates. Hello, Tara. And yes, well, she is here.
She's here, but she has to unmute herself. Hello.
Welcome, Tara. And on my right, we are joined in a scintillating top hat, actually, Maria Kowaloff. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Mel. Thank you for noticing my new hat.
Indeed. How could I not notice your hat? In fact, everybody but me is wearing a hat. Tara's got a nice Christmas hat on. So, okay. Now, we've got two other guests, one of whom is becoming almost a regular on the show itself with us. Next to Maria, we have Adam Time. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, how y'all doing? You don't mind that I put my sofa over here. I've been sleeping over there by the corner.
No problem.
It's
no
okay,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody, how y'all doing?
Well, Adam is also wearing a hat, which is absolutely great, and you will know Adam these days because we hear him every day with his daily metaverse news, so to speak. Adam O Time, YouTube, and I put it on Google Plus everywhere else, and we're also joined. By her name here is Leslie Spirit Weaver, but she is one of the people running the grid known as Tangle Grid. And they've also launched yet another grid this week, which has been latest in the news, which we'll be talking about later. So welcome, Leslie.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here today.
It's our pleasure. Now, the way we do this is I normally start with some news headlines, but since I had to reboot my computer before we started, I haven't got them open. Eek! And then we move to Tara for some show and tell and Inworld stuff, and then Maria gives us, strictly speaking, whatever headlines there are from Metaverse business and that stuff. And then we'll sort of move in to general discussion about new grids and stuff like that. If any of you want to gently sort of comment while we're delivering the news, feel free, but sort of hold back on general discussion until we got the news out of the way. I will be endeavouring to find any extra news links that I can whilst Tara and maybe even Maria are actually doing their things. So the first thing I'm going to do now is hand over to Tara for show and tell and Second Life news by and large. And I suspect she will give some mention also to our brand new Sim Metaworld or Metaworld Broadcasting on the Great Canadian Grid too, which is I suppose we're about halfway to completion now and having great fun fiddling around there. No, building there and designing there, fiddling around indeed. Yes, too much fiddling on my part. Okay, over to you, Tara.
And Tara has to remember to unmute herself again.
Yep.
And it's really kind of a challenge when you have multiple things to be concerned about on this show, running a camera as well as having to switch the camera and all that good stuff, as well as keeping oneself muted when one is cursing quietly because you've just done the wrong shot. Anyway, greetings from the Pacific Northwest, where it has been mild. We have not had any snow, although there's supposed to be snow in the mountains, which is making the skiers happy. It's one of those weeks, as is invariably the case when news essentially comes to a halt. And so it's always kind of dig around to find things, but I still do have some show and tell that I've been slowly making my way through from, particularly the arcade gotcha. Let me find the right button here to get over where you can see some of this week's stuff. Come on, wake up, keyboard.
And
I
see I see a snail in a hat.
Oh yeah,
and for toys.
Yeah, for some reason my there we go. Now it's working. Okay. No, it's not working.
Oh dear.
That one did. Well, that's the wrong one. Anyway, well, let's go back over here and I'll just we'll just do a little camera work to get over there. Well, Christmas happens and the packages get unwrapped. But in our case, what happened was the critters arrived. These are all from the editions this week are all created by Henry Haystack and are gettable from the Gotcha Arcade. And you'll notice we have a new puppy who's crawled under the Christmas tree. And he has a mouse friend. And there's a couple of other mice here who have stolen a gingerbread man. And they're keeping company with a couple of ducks who've gotten into the mince. And yes, we have a snail. And there's a turtle who's gotten into a Santa Claus hat. And then we have this fawn who's gotten herself very nicely tangled up in the Christmas lights. And these are all just great fun. And I mean, you can see they're still even plugged in. Anyway, those are the additions. And as I say, these are all from the this round of the Arcade Gotcha, which runs, you have until New Year's Eve day. It's probably midnight New Year's Eve when they slam shut the doors, and that's the end of this round. And there's, every round of these it's such an adventure to see what people have come up with, and the truly amazing stuff that they have come up with. And that's just a little taste. Now I should probably comment on my own attire today because I'm wearing a couple of items that came from other places that were freebies, including the hat, which came from the advent calendar at Kitty Cats, as did the necklace. I'm not sure where I got these wonderful holiday pajamas, but I figured this was the show to wear them. And just something entirely casual. And I did find some slippers to put on with the pajamas. So these probably look more reputable than most of the pajamas I wear.
Do you know, I when I saw those pajamas, I thought you'd gone Scottish because they reminded me more of a tartan.
Yes. Well, these are pajamas, so there you are. Well, one item that did catch my notice this week in the news was kind of a non-event that I think we've all expected, and that is that the younger set, teenagers, apparently are definitely withdrawing from Facebook, which comes as no surprise, given that that's kind of been the teenage buzz, and particularly as more parents have taken to hanging out at Facebook. Facebook has become significantly less appealing to their offspring, because they figure, well, now I have to behave myself anyway. But there was another interesting note I saw today, and that is that apparently there's been a general decline in the amount of time people are spending at Facebook, which, it's just one of those things. I think you have to expect that that's what's going to happen when time passes and people have used something for a while and it's very novel, and when the novelty's high, then you waste a lot of time on it, and then you get familiar with it, and then it's not so much fun to waste your time there. So I think that's been the Facebook phenomenon this year. The only other thing that occurred to me this week has been very well done by at least two bloggers for Second Life, and that is kind of a look back on the year in Second Life in particular. And that's Inara Pei, who invariably does an excellent job with that. And also Daniel Voyager has done his own take on the highlights of 2014. I think the big turning point for Second Life this year was in the early part of the year, when there was yet another turnover in the CEO position, with Ebbe Altberg coming on board. And I think the optimism that I felt early on from my early impressions is very much held up. I think things are better in Second Life. I think there's been a corner turned. I think he has very much made good on his promises for more transparency and more active listening on the part of the lab. I think that's clearly going on. And that's a winner. Yes, people are going to grouse, but one of the things that I've often said is, when people complain, people don't complain about things they don't care about. So people complaining means they care. So I think that's to the good on the Second Life front. I'm sure there are lots of things going on this week in the way of there's still some hunts that are going on that are holiday related, holiday themed. So there's lots of good freebies to be had. And since I mentioned kitty cats already, because that's the source of this hat and the necklace, their advent calendar, I think, runs probably through New Year's anyway. And the advent prize, or the gift item for the 24th is this year's holiday kitty cat. And you too can have one of your very own. So get yourself over there and collect and enjoy. And I think that's probably about it for me. And I'll just put my attention on camera work for now and toss this back to Mel. Well, and see if he's found his notes.
Yes, well, I'm busy doing a little bit of copying and pasting behind the scenes here as we speak, but thank you for that. I'm going to hand over to Maria very shortly. So I'm just going to mention a few that I've pulled out while Tara was talking, which yes, I think that's right. Offbeat items, as it were. Yeah. Okay, the first one I'm doing here, and I'm literally copying it as we're speaking, is from a blog called Hyperallergenic. Yes, hyperallergenic. That's hyperallergic, actually, is probably the way I should pronounce it. This is a piece entitled, and no, I don't want the pop-up just to read it. Typical, isn't it? Right. Okay, it's about to be pasted over the link if somebody wants to put it in the channel chat. Here we go. Virtual island of algorithmically generated art museums. This is not OpenSim, it's not Second Life, it's not quite like anything we have seen. It's sort of rather cartoony and stuff, but the focus is on virtually generated art in and museums of the same. And I must say, it looks quite cute. So do follow that link. Also, Tara was mentioning the look back things, especially Daniel Voyager's, but I have a link here to an article called "The Dividing Metaverse: A Look at 2015," and basically it's written by Chick Eon, who is actually with us over in the Great Canadian Grid at the moment. She declined to actually come on. She doesn't like speaking, but today. But she had a rather interesting post there that she mentioned Second Life, but also OpenSim, and it's her thoughts really, and that's at her blog, which is Chick at Ebby's Place, which used to be at Philip's Place, and then it used to be at somebody else's place, and then it used to be at but it's now at Ebby's Place, even though it's about OpenSim more than anything else. Anyway, so that's a very good read, and as I mentioned, she's on Great Canadian Grid, and of course, yours truly hasn't put his own camera back on, has he? Oh, well, you've deprived of my face there. That's us all to the good, probably. Right. Okay. Now, I mentioned this. Well, hang on. I'm going to give you one more link too. This is actually to a site called Hacked. And the article is called "Real, Virtual and Augmented Reality Apps Coming Soon from Facebook." I thought this was quite an interesting little note because we hear about Oculus and being owned by Facebook and all the rest of it, but this seems to indicate that Facebook themselves are working on specific apps for not only augmented reality but virtual reality too. So some interesting sort of things there. Now, most of the other links I've got here, of course, lead to Hypergrid Business. Winter Silversmith did have a little article at the Current Journal. I haven't got the link handy, but it'd be on our previous links, about well, a number of different things. He was the first that actually broke the news to me about Hypergrid Business's site has been hacked. And before I actually hand over to Maria properly, I'd like to bring Maria into the conversation and have a bit of add-on to this piece of news. You're in the news for once, not reporting,
Yes.
not reporting it.
Yes, I made the news. It was really funny. So I decided to give Hypergrid Business a Christmas present this year. And I've been meaning to do this for a while, to get it a server upgrade. And my hosting company has a little one-click upgrade feature where you press the button and you order the service. They move all your content over to the new server. Once everything's in place and working, they switch over the DNS pointer. And then once that's switched over and that's working, they take down the old site. So what happened was that they set up my new server with a blank WordPress install, did not move over any files, and pointed the DNS pointers right over. So it went live while it was still an empty WordPress site ready for anyone to step in and claim as their own. Because what it did was it took you to this page that said create your first admin account and upload a theme. So what I am guessing is that somebody saw that and said, what a loser, and and put up a site to that effect, misspelling the word loser in the process. So I was running around because it's the Christmas Eve. I got stuff to do. I got all my last minute shopping to do. And when I got back to the computer, I had been sending in support requests via email. The support team was misunderstanding me. They're like, I did not want to be in this queue. I came back to my computer and I pulled up the live support person that they had for text chat support, And I said, you were supposed to move everything over, then switch over to DNS. You messed up the order of things. And they said, oh, yeah, we forgot to move all the stuff over. Let's move it over now. And I guess he pressed the move everything over button, and it all got moved over, and it was working. There were still a couple of minor tweaks that needed to be done. I couldn't upload any new images because I didn't set the permissions right on some folders. They fixed that. And the site now works. It seems to be a lot faster than it was before, a lot faster. I'm not getting downtime page errors at the rate that I was getting them before, which was a lot. So I am overall, I could have picked a better day than Christmas Eve to order a site upgrade. In retrospect,
probably yes.
Maybe I should have either done it before the holidays or waited till after the holidays. So I kind of blame myself on this. But other than that, they fixed it right away. As soon as they realized what the problem was, they took care of it instantly. Yeah.
Great.
You know,
sorry?
You know, yeah. I noticed somebody left. Hey, you know what I did was when I saw that came up, I did a trace back on your IP immediately and went and looked at it, and everything was kosher. All these people were talking, "Oh, you got hacked, you got hacked," and I'm looking at this stuff, and there's no hack. Everything's exactly right, but I'm saying somebody's doing an upgrade today. That's exactly what I said. I think somebody's doing an upgrade, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, an upgrade on the holiday when everybody's on holiday, you know? I mean, all your admins have been like kicking them back, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, no, I'll probably.
It's probably. It was probably a lone person who wasn't on holiday decided to fiddle.
And so I got so many supportive emails from people. Maria, did you know this? Timothy Rogers offered to hack the hacker and get my site back for me, and he investigated it and he tracked it down. Nebadon from OS Grid, the former president, sent me a note letting me know what was going on. So many people got in touch with me. Adam from the Current Journal, a lot of people on Twitter, on Facebook, on Skype, through every channel. I am so grateful.
One glitch left. You know, there's only one glitch left, and that's the comment areas. When you go into comment areas, that area's it's all text instead of being I don't know what you call it. It's that area is not that work. The JavaScript on that's not set up right, I think, right now. But I got it. You know, I mean, you're able to reply, but it seems like it's not like the old one. It makes no sense. But hey, it doesn't look as pretty as the old one. I think those will be the tweaks that you'll end up dealing with. I think
that's Discus. I upgraded. Oh, they stopped nesting it. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, that's the end of my news about Maria being in the news. We had an exclusive comment there from Maria. but we've got Maria here.
Maria herself.
I'm going to ask her to go through. By the way, I crashed during that conversation, and my camera is still rezzing. My own face is showing a beautiful red cloud. I will comment on the fact that I downloaded the new SL version of Firestorm during the week, and it has been crashing on me considerably. I don't know what is wrong, but it's misbehaving. The
latest Firestorm is I don't want to go there. Just watch my show. Right. That's it.
Fair enough. We'll come to that in a minute. So Firestorm is going to be in our conversation. Anyway, I'm endeavouring to put the camera back on Maria, but no, I've got it on Leslie instead. There we are. I've got a grey Maria, but at least her face is showing. Okay, we'll continue. Tara's film is good. I can see from the channel. Right. The other thing.
Yes, I was going to say I'm not having any camera trouble at this point.
Yeah. The other thing that we, the Covent Journal reported, Winter Silversmith again, when was it? This is on Christmas Eve, and the headline was today's episode of, and then inverted commas, as the Avi world's turn. Yeah. Now, since then, oh God, the amount of drama. There's apparently an Avi Worlds too. And there's still Abbey Worlds, but it's offline for a while. And maybe you'd like to start with all this, Maria. I'm sure
Okay.
you've got the
Yes,
best summary.
I have not written about this, but because I've been kind of I don't want to put anything down in print that might cause me to get sued, mostly. But I have been on the receiving end of probably dozens, maybe hundreds of emails from every single party involved, including lately they've been sending me server logs dumps proving or disproving the user rates on the grid. So let me say that from what I am able to gather, Alex decided to give away the grid, not sell, to Mike Hart and Josh Bohm. Mike Hart is the owner of the Next Reality Grid. He's best known for his vehicles, and Josh Bohm is is current owner of the Skyline Grid. He's a techie. He stepped in to help Avi Worlds get back and running again when he left ZetaMax as his hosting company. So those two guys brought in quite a bit of content, a lot of regions, and their technical expertise to Avi Worlds. And Alex Pompaselli, who runs Avi Worlds, does not have the time or the skills, the technical skills, to run a grid the size of Avi Worlds, and he does not have the social skills to get along with any hosting company. This is my best guess, is what the problem is. Obviously, Alex has a different story on what happened with all his hosting companies and why none of it all always went wrong. Basically, there's a giant conspiracy against him. So, putting that aside, how everyone's against him and trying to rip him off and everything else. So Mike and Josh stepped in. Everybody warned them not to step in. So they were amply informed about the possible consequences of getting involved with Avi Worlds. They're adults. They did so anyway. They did get quite a bit of publicity for themselves out of it. So I assume that's what they wanted. So now Alex decides to close the grid. Then he decides not to close the grid. He decides to give the grid away. He decides not to give the grid away. Then he decides to give the grid away after all. He gives the grid away, and then he pulls the plug on it. He hands over the passwords to the grid. And then he says, "Oh no, I gave away the grid. I can't do that."
Well, like you, I've sort of resisted posting a lot of stuff on this. But I mean, for people that are very interested in what's going on, you don't really have to go much further than Google Plus, which has endless notes from all the parties involved, including the people running the number 2 and the number 1. It's intriguing, isn't it? Because I always we call it the yo-yo grid, and we have this vision of somebody with a yo-yo in their hands. Well, now it's going to be a double-handed yo-yo.
So Alex is totally in the wrong. He should not have given away his grid. The main reason the grid exists is because of him and his Brazilian followers, who are apparently a cult of Brazilian worshippers of Alex Pompaselli. He needs to just settle for what a hosting company can offer him. I mean, he's never satisfied with what the hosting company can offer him. He just needs to deal with that. Go with whoever is willing to take him on as a customer right now. That could be CloudServe. They do grid hosting. if CloudServe comes to their senses and decides not to do this, there are several smaller hosting companies based in Europe that this would put them on the map if they're able to survive AviWorlds. I strongly would recommend that he do that he just hire a hosting company, deal with their features, deal with their interface, and just pay them and just let them do it. So Alex was trying to somehow get out of doing that, and by bringing people in, and I guess everybody promises everybody else that everything's gonna be wonderful one now that they're together, and it never works out. So and Alex and Josh and Mike are obviously totally in the wrong because they accepted a grid from Alex, knowing that there's no way he's gonna let this grid go.
No.
Yeah. And it was totally clear. I've said this. I've emailed them this. I think everybody else in the world has told them this. Like, don't take the grid from Alex because the grid is him. There is no grid without Alex.
Not AviWorlds, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a shell, and this is what's happening. So they take the grid over. First thing is that there's immediately controversy over Alex's quote personal unquote regions. So he wants those regions taken off the grid. They don't. Now, obviously, any user has the right to take their regions off the grid. The question is, do those regions belong to Alex, the user, or Alex, the grid owner, and are part of the grid itself? Mike and Josh think they belong to the grid. Alex thinks they're his personal regions and belong to him. And
see, this is really just too much drama. I think we'll have to see wait and see what happens. I mean, it beggars belief actually that people running that people who are actually supposed to be running grids get themselves into this ridiculous mess.
Now this should have been spelled out in any kind of sale agreement. But as far as I can tell, nothing was ever written down, or no due diligence was done. There was none of this stuff was actually nailed down before the quote sale unquote took place. So the controversy is over those regions. Then the second part is that Alex is immediately launching a new grid.
Oh, for God's sake!
And of course, his cult of Brazilian worshippers are going to follow him to the new grid, and leaving Mike and Josh with what they had before, a bunch of pretty regions with nobody on them, which is why they signed up with Alex in the first place, because they wanted his Brazilians.
Yeah.
So everyone loses in the end, and it's just a lot of headaches.
Yeah. Again, we'll
and
move
the
on.
third, one more aspect to this that I've been investigating. So Josh is claiming that Alex was faking his users. And he sent me a bunch of server stats showing a lot of usage from one IP address. I looked at that. The IP address belongs to a web server. Both of them belong to web servers. Reasonable. And the server logs do show a great variety of users from lots of different places for his grid. And I've checked with his former hosting companies. And again, there's nothing to contradict the idea that Alex does, in fact, have a lot of Brazilian users. So that's what I've been able to ascertain to my current state of knowledge. Okay, and my advice is to Josh and Mike: find your own users. Don't try to take and run away from AviWorlds. And to Alex, pay for some decent hosting, scale back the grid to what you can afford to set up, and just deal with it. Just go on from that point.
Fair enough. Okay, before you get on to any other news, I did notice that Adam wanted to get a quick
Oh,
word
yeah.
in on this subject. A quick word,
Well,
Adam.
why don't you just why don't you guys just do the back trace to the servers for all these, like I've been doing, all right, and watching this, and I finally chimed in today on my show and said, all right, Josh, you're a fool for getting involved with this because FCC is going to be looking at this now. Anybody that stepped in, that they had to let that grid had to fail and it had to come out as a different company. You can't do that. You can't take somebody's data without giving them a certain amount of notice. You got to give me a notice. That'd be like Second Life. You've got to give these people notice of where their data is going. I bet people better go look at what these rules are. Now they're on a server in France. And I already did all their stuff. Did you know that the server in France isn't even a secure server? It's still got I did a test today on that server in France. It's still got hasn't even updated their SSL for Poodle. So here's the scoop. Tell Josh and Bryce, you guys, I don't care who avatars or how many clones you got out there, you better get away from that name real fast. Start your own grid. I think Mark Hart was the only one smart, whoever he is, and said, hey, I'm going to go do my own name over here. I'm going to do my own thing. Get away from this, because what you guys have done has opened a lot of eyes in the FCC here. And let me tell you what. Now that it's over in France and you took this data from one country to another, you guys are looking at, I'm telling you, you guys better be careful. This is no joke. If I was you, I would drop AVI Worlds tomorrow. That would be defunct, because I've spent every time they played with it, I did my logins, I did my ping back, trace backs on every one of these servers, and I've got it all. But it doesn't look that way. It doesn't.
No,
look
it looks. I have to admit, it looks like an absolute disaster.
Right.
Okay, I'll
go
let Maria continue with the news. But just before, I'm going to switch over to Leslie. As a fellow grid owner, or grid manager at least, have you any thoughts briefly on this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tell.
It's free advertising. The more a lot of people love drama. Let's face it, and that's all that I've seen in the last 2 weeks is Abby this, Abby that, Abby this, Abby that. And every time it seems to calm down a little bit, someone throws another monkey wrench into it. And then it starts all over again. It's just free advertising. The more you guys, not saying you guys particularly, but the more you people talk about this, the more he gets people coming in for curiosity's sake. You got to let it go. You got to let them dig their own hole, bury themselves, end of story, move on. There's a lot of beautiful things going on out there. Upgrades for OS, new improvements for this, new improvements for that. I let it go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I brought it up because it has been in the news, as it were,
but why?
Even behind the scenes. But to me, we're all about promoting the metaverse and virtual worlds and everything else. And OpenSim is a community. It's got to try and work together to push the whole idea of the hypergrid and everything. And, stupid little things like this, hijacking, all the wonderful stuff that's really going on. It's not doing the reputation of the metaverse any good. No. And I know, people like drama, and I guess all the Brazilians will follow Alex. But I mean, who cares? I want to see a grid that comes up and stays up and has a its own identity.
Okay, let's say someone comes out of SL and they go to somewhere like that, and the grid goes down, and then they go back in, and it goes down again. Do you think that's going to give the rest of us a good name? Because the first thing they say to me is, oh, I was in a grid and they shut it down. My money was gone. My content was gone. Why isn't there not someone saying, okay, 3 strikes, you're out, period, end of story? This guy's like, how many times have you open and closed now? And how many times I'm going to sue you this and I'm going to sue you that? Please.
Just when you're saying doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that, it reminded me of the yo-yo. Now we've got 2 yo-yos to contend with, possibly. I mean, it's just bananas.
And it'll keep going as long as you guys keep feeding it. It's as simple as that.
Okay, well, on cue, I'm going to hand back to Maria. Can we move on to another item?
You asked my 2 cents.
Oh yes. Oh no, thanks, Leslie. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's more of an ethical issue for journalists. To what extent do you cover the news and the drama and the baby in a well kind of story? So I think it's a wonderful discussion, but maybe for a later time, if we have time left over after covering the news. So let's see what's been happening. Happening is first of all, we're doing a survey about freebie destinations. I've posted a long list of them. And oh, by the way, speaking of freebies, I just visited the West World region, Welcome region. Really nice selection of starting content for new avatars, both very Western themed. They've got the standard stock ones, and then they also have little commodity stuff that everybody needs, plus the unique items in little stores. And I saw that there's still some store space available for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's going fast today. I think I got rid of 4 or 5, and then 4 or 5 lots went today. It was crazy today for me over there. Sheesh. But saying that, maybe the next time we talk about that, or you mention West, I'm having a small problem. They seem to think that it's a commercial grid. They think there's currency in there. I don't know why.
I keep saying
thought I made
open
that very
grid
clear.
every time I mention it. Anyway.
Yeah, I looked at I did actually see a post, Leslie, which I had the impression it was a separate grid, but in fact
it is a separate grid.
It is.
The login I thought was still Tangle Grid. Okay.
Yeah,
it is because we're hosting that grid.
Yes. So you should have set up a separate domain name for it, so people would not be confused about that.
No.
Because usually when they type in a hypergrid address, they go by the name of the domain as the name of the grid.
Right.
So it's very confusing that Tangle Grid 8102 takes you to Westworld, and Tangle Grid 8002 takes you to Tangle Grid. And I think that's too much for most people to understand that little one digit difference actually lands you on 2 separate grids.
Right.
Well, I can see if my tech guy can kind of run around that, but I'd probably have to get, like you said, a separate domain name for them.
Yeah, just get a domain name and forward it over to the same IP address. So it should be a non-issue. I mean, I do that right now. I point my domain name, which is hosted elsewhere, to my Dreamland grid, for example, because you can point it to anything. All right. Okay. So people have been wandering around these freebie places, and they have been voting on their favorites. And there's still a couple of days left to have a vote, and then I'll be putting the results up probably on Monday. Right. Okay, so and there's a lot of places to check out. So if you're interested in doing some freebie hunting, there's a big list of places there as part of that story. I did an overview of some holiday events on the grids. Of course, most of these are already over. The main one that's still ongoing is the Winterfest, again on Tangle Grid, which is known as the Expo Grid. Good thing.
We're busy.
Yeah. And there's going to be some New Year's events as well. So keep an eye out for that, including on Littlefield. Okay.
You had an item, it's actually on Christmas Eve, about Inworld's Toys for Tots drive reaching a new high. Is that still on, events-wise? Or is it ever?
No, they wrapped it up. They wrapped it up on December 21st. That was their annual Toys for Tots fundraiser. They raised the most amount so far, over $6,000. Raised by residents over the previous 2 weeks, which included a fashion show, a breedables auction of horses, dances, and so on and so forth. And donations will be matched by Inworlds.
Cool.
So Very, very, very nice thing there.
Mhm.
Very nice thing for a commercial grid to do in particular, is to donate back, especially in this season. Instead of writing a story about Avi Worlds, I
Oh,
did a
Lordy.
checklist of what to do when you buy a grid. A little
Right.
bit of a due
It's
diligence, which should be standard knowledge for anyone buying a business. But I guess people buying grids maybe you've never bought a business before. So these are some of the things that maybe are unique to the grid buying process. And one of the things, the first thing I mentioned is a terms of service for content. When your users upload stuff to the grid, some grids don't even bother putting a terms of service up. So the content is actually licensed for that initial use. By default, when you give somebody content, you give them only a limited license to do the stuff with that content that you are expecting them to do, nothing else. So you can't sell this content to somebody else. So this is something that you really want to check into if you're going to be buying a grid. Have the residents agree to this? Have they signed this? Or will you lose the rights to all the content on the grid once you buy it? So that's
Sure.
something you should check into. Will the vendor agreements continue? Are they outstanding debts? The other thing I mentioned is to put in a non-compete clause. And I was specifically thinking of Alex when I wrote this. This is very common for businesses. When you have a charismatic founder who's loved by customers, if he sells his business, leaves and starts up a new business immediately, his followers will follow because that's what followers do.
Oh yeah.
So what you want to do is company and help them out for a few months, or he can go on vacation or do something totally unrelated, but he can't start a competing company right away.
Yeah.
And this will give the users enough time to get used to the new management. So that's something that really anybody who plans to buy a grid from Alex Pomposelli in the future should seriously consider doing.
or get
Now,
the head red.
you have a ready-made article now at Hypergood Business. So when you get harassed by all these emails
Right.
and IMs, you can just send a link.
All right. Okay, so going on to a happier grid, and I love this. Metropolis has just released their web-based inventory download tool. Now, they're not the first grid to offer this. Spellscape also offers it, and most hosting companies offer it as well. So what happens is, if you have inventory on a grid and the grid goes down, you lose all that content. Or if you want to move an avatar from one grid to another, you can't because all your inventory is stuck on this grid. And I know, Mal, you personally have experience with this because your inventory is on OS grid and you can't touch it because the grid is down.
Exactly.
So wouldn't it be nice if you could save your inventory to your hard drive?
Yeah.
Now, what Spellscape does is they offer a filtered inventory. So you can save stuff that you're allowed to save. In their case, it's the full perm content that you buy, and it's anything that you yourself, of course, create. So the merchants can decide whether they want to allow you to export stuff from the grid or not. On Metropolis, since it's an open grid, their online tool lets you export your entire inventory. And this means that you can have a local backup in case something happens to Metropolis. It means that you can clone your avatar on either Metropolis or on another grid. But also, and this is extremely useful, you can save individual folders of stuff.
Nice.
So if you have an interesting build, like my fairy castle, you can save the fairy castle as an IAR file. It includes everything that's in that folder, all the content, including all the scripts. everything. And when you send or sell this file to somebody else and they upload it, which they can do with this Metropolis tool, they upload it to their avatar and it's uploaded as a folder in their inventory. And then they can do anything with it that they can with anything else in their inventory.
Oh, that's perfect.
So
that's
this is
what
a
I need. Yeah.
wonderful way of transmitting content.
Tell me, does this is it a Metropolis tool just for the Metropolis grid, or is it a tool that can
because Metropolis doesn't have access to the inventories of other grids.
Right, sure.
So you have to be a Metropolis avatar to take advantage of this tool.
Right.
So if you are looking for a new grid to make your permanent base, and you were kind of leaning towards Metropolis but weren't quite sure, this will definitely push you over in that direction.
Wonderful.
I hope
that folder thing is particularly useful. In fact, just as a sideline, one of the things I've been moaning about this week is that I've now managed to use the Firefox client for OpenSim, and that's behaving wonderfully, by the way, unlike this Firefox for Second Life client. But the first thing I noticed, and I got so used to it in Singularity, was that I'm used in Singularity to go into a folder in my inventory and then right-clicking and say New Inventory Window. And in Singularity, you get a new inventory window which only includes that folder, which is nice and manageable. But unfortunately, in Firefox, now starting that, it always opens a new folder with my entire inventory in it. So I've got to go navigating into the duplicate folder, to find it again and do stuff. So a little thing to the Firefox people, actually, please fix this.
Now, what the Metropolis feature does is it enables a new way to sell content online. Scripts, it's kind of funky.
Yeah.
And the XML exports are different for every viewer. You have to use the same viewer to upload the stuff as you did to download it, and usually it's impedance. So it was it was a non-standard format, not totally reliable, and didn't support scripts. So with the IAR, this is a standard OpenSim format. It's very reliable, very robust, supports scripts. I mean, the whole item is downloaded with all the if it has attachments, if it has links, all this stuff is properly saved. And you can now sell this content. You can open up a website and sell this, and anybody can buy it, upload it to their avatar on Metropolis, and use it. So it's a very, very nice feature. If you're not on Metropolis, you can also get this from some hosting companies. ZeniMax plans to have it, Dreamland has it, and CloudSurf has it, but you have to have region rentals from those people in order to be able to upload inventory files with them. You can't just walk in off the street and download and upload your inventory. You have to be a customer.
It's a bit like if I hypergrided into Metropolis without actually, I can have being a hypergrid avatar, I can't obviously use something like that at all. I would have to be registered on the grid. Yeah, because your content is somewhere else. Metropolis can't go into your original grid and say, hey, give me your database. Yeah. Because that would be a major security problem. Okay, so speaking of Metropolis, hello. Yes, I was just about to prompt you. I was just about to prompt you on this when Avalonia's Fendom community joins Metropolis.
Yes, so Avalonia Estate is a very niche grid. It serves the market of people who like to see men as slaves and women as masters. So you'd think this would be a much larger population, but no, it's apparently very niche, or at least in terms of people who admit to this lifestyle. And
I think the Inworld Review typifies this, doesn't
The
it?
website for that is where exactly?
Tara and Maria.
Yes. So Justin Ironman is the founder of this,
Right.
and so he is one of the founders of the adult metaverse community on Google Plus, which I suggest that you subscribe to, or if you don't want to subscribe to it, bookmark it, so you can follow the developments without your name being listed as one of the members. And they have erotic events for the hypergrid community. And this grid was a little bit too much for Justin to maintain, and he recently scaled back to just a personal grid. And but there's demand for his grid's offerings. So what he decided to do was to move most of the grid onto Metropolis. So Metropolis takes care of all the infrastructure stuff and support. Sorry.
Dear.
He has his community regions there. And then when he's able to, when he can maintain this all himself, he will move all this back to the Avalonia grid. So what do you think of that? What do you think of that, Mel?
Well, I've got you and Tara bossing me around on this show, so I don't really know what I need to.
I don't know.
I don't know whether I really have
We
to go
can't
over
even-
there.
We can't
I
even
tried to
make
get
you
in there.
change your clothes.
Well, I'm not saying the domination works. I'm just saying that it is perpetually attempted.
I put on my sexy Santa Claus outfit and I tried to join it, and I'm still trying to get in over there. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on, but I can't get in. You know,
You
Well-
got too much clothes on, maybe.
Head over to Metropolis. That's where it is now.
I know where it is. I've been there. I've been as soon as it went up on Hypergrid, I went over there for you, kid, and I've spent 2 days trying to become part of that and check it out.
Yeah. All right.
I know
So,
it'll happen. You know, it'll
yeah.
happen. It's they keep it pretty private, and they want a select group coming in. That's cool. That's cool.
Okay. So I already mentioned Westworld. I would like to come back to Leslie later and
Yep.
get all the details about that. But I have a little roundup article of what it is, what Open Grid is, and the address of everything, and how you get the free land and the free shops, and that's up there. And we'll come back to Leslie for the inside scoop.
Cool.
And I also did an article running some back of the envelope estimations as to what you should pay for a Gridmaster.
Man, did you get a reaction on those, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, and so there's a category of people in OpenSim who are extremely loud about this, who believe that Gridmasters should not be paid a lot of money, that $10 an hour is a reasonable wage. And then there's a category of people who think that these are real technical jobs that require technical skills, and webmasters get paid on average of $70,000 a year. So Gridmasters should be paid at least that much, because you're not only running a web server, you're also running a grid server, which is several orders of magnitude more complicated. And so and I also had some suggestions for what to do if you can't afford to pay that. So first of all, there are people paying for it. And I recommend that people who want to get that money take a look at Julie Lemoyne's presentation at the OSCC about how to sell virtual worlds to Fortune 500 companies. They do want this stuff. They do use it. Rapid prototyping, marketing, development. They use it for training. They use it for onboarding, meetings, collaborations, all sorts of areas in which it's already being used in businesses. And with the attention being paid to virtual reality, a lot more businesses are getting a lot more interested in it. And typical projects are in the six figures. So if you do a project that's in-house, there's definitely money in there for a reasonable salary for a technologist. So that is out there. And I have a link to Julie's speech for anybody who wants to see it. But if you're in a startup, you can do the same thing that startups did in the early days of the web, which is you can get a teenager, and that's the people who work for $10 an hour, usually teenagers. You can get somebody part-time, pay them the $100 an hour, and use them for the initial setup, and then use them when things break and you need them to come in and fix things. You outsource it to ZetaMex, to Dreamland, to Olivera, to Cloud Serve, whoever, or you pay in equity. You have the CTO be a partner of the grid, and so they share in the success. So and these are all standard mechanisms for getting technical support when maybe you don't have a big budget of a corporation. And you should be prepared to do that. I mean, this is a very technical job, and people should be compensated adequately. And I've heard of developers being guilt tripped into working for barter, working for land, and yes, it's a new technology, and yes, grids have small budgets, but that doesn't mean that the developers who maybe don't have the best, personal sales skills, should be mistreated, because it is a valuable skill, and they do deserve to be paid for it. So I'm a big proponent of paying a reasonable amount for reasonable work. You don't have to overpay people, but recognize them for the work you're doing. They'll be happier. They'll last longer on the job. You'll have fewer problems like Alex was having with Josh, because one of the issues was the fact that Josh was basically working for free. And when somebody's basically working for free or for trade, there's only so much you can ask them to do, because at the end of the day, you're not.
We're getting to the point now where people are possibly going to be headhunted. So it is a playing field, a commercial playing field of sorts. You get your start in one place, you move on to another, and obviously you may stay with the same place if they treat you well, or you have a shareholding or something.
Right. Okay, so OS Grid posted a little update as to what's going on. The update had 0 actionable information in it.
Yes.
I saw that.
I mean, there was a lot of data points in there, but there was nothing really that contained any meaning. So was data recovered? They don't know.
I saw
they
that.
Don't know.
I saw that, and I actually had to blink before I realised it was a separate post from the previous post. Because it was listing all the to be attended tos and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we got a bunch of smaller items. Purdue's including virtual reality in 2 new graduate programs if you want to get some technical skills under your belt. More automobile companies are using virtual reality. I already talked about Volvo with the XC90 and their Google Cardboard app. Now Chevy's now using it for the designing vehicles. I've already previously wrote about what Ford is doing. So definitely for manufacturing, it's great. A new app was released for the construction industry with the Oculus Rift for architects, interior designers, and contractors to visualize their stuff before they start putting bricks down. So I'm looking forward to seeing more uses of VR happening in industries.
I unfortunately, it's something I haven't got the link to because it's probably buried on the iPad somewhere. But there's supposed to be an app launching in a couple of months on the iPad, which will allow you to author virtual reality environments. The only proviso is that once it's been authored, people are, say, viewing it on the web or something, will need to actually download a plugin from the same people doing the app. And But we know what plugins are like. Some of them just come out and get lost, But it's quite interesting. All these specific, tools, for specific targeting. They're obviously marketing it towards enterprise. So.
Right. And the story that I'm working on today is the Mumble Whisper system has been fixed by the Digital Worlds Group. This is Terry Ford's company. They're a partner of Third Rock Grid. The Whisper thing first came out back in 2010, and it's also known as Mumble and Murmur. So the Whisper Mumble is a voice system that sounds as good as Vivox. Vivox is what we have in Second Life and in most open sim grids. But Vivox is a commercial product, and once a grid gets to a certain size, they have to pay for a license. And it's very difficult and expensive to get this license from Vivox, and it's really not clear what they consider to be a large commercial grid.
Well, I also know for a fact that I was talking to Roddy at Great Canadian Grid, obviously. I know it's secondary base these days. And they're actually going to be bringing Mumble and getting rid of VVox. But what I didn't know, in fact, was that if you do have the free version, that you can get on a small grid, you can only actually have 5 active speakers. And,
I don't know this.
Yeah, and we suddenly realised, well, you got 8 people in there, and only 3 that can actually speak on VVolt. So another reason entirely to move to a new system. Yeah.
Oh, that can't be right. I had more than 5 people at my last meeting, and I'm running VivOx on Hyperica.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try it
Anyway.
then. Sorry, I should not have passed on hearsay information, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
It appeared to be some kind of limitation when he was trying it out. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So previously the only other alternative to VivOx was FreeSwitch, but FreeSwitch is horrible quality. I've seen it used. It's really bad. It's breakup-y. It's not well integrated. It doesn't work well with a viewer. I mean, plugs right in, but it doesn't sound good. And and Whisper has the spatial stuff and everything else. The problem was that Whisper wasn't compatible with the Second Life VivOx settings, so viewer couldn't run Whisper unless you installed a plugin into the viewer, and nobody would bother to install a plugin, of course. But also, if you went from one region that had VivOx or FreeSwitch to another region that had Whisper, you wouldn't be able to get voice from both places, because your viewer would have either one plugin or the other, not both. So what the Digital Worlds Group did was they created a plugin that would switch between the two, depending on what region or what grid you were on, so that you can travel between different grids, running different voice systems, and still use this. And they've released a patch to Firestorm, which anybody can pick up, and it's free, so any grid can install this and run their own server, or they can use the server from Digital Worlds Group. So very nice to have this alternative, and especially one that grids can run themselves.
Is it a spatial voice too, like VVox, or is it?
It's supposed to be, yes. I don't know if they have full spatial support yet, but that's kind of a minor issue compared to just getting this place.
I was certainly thinking back to the days. I might even still have it in my Second Life inventory somewhere. But before Skype was bought by Microsoft and messed up, and before Linden Labs actually had Inworld Voice, I actually had an object in my inventory that I could wear, which was a Skype phone. And anybody walking up to my avatar could press on the phone to call me via Skype anonymously, which was rather cute. You didn't need a Skype account of your own to do it. It literally launched a Skype call to me by pressing on this object my avatar was wearing. And it was good quality. and,
Right.
and then Linda brought their own in.
Yeah.
It's funny old world.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so the last I heard, Mumble does show a speaker indicator with a dot over a person's head, and it's supposed to have spatial voice. They're debugging it now because it's in there, and it does do lip movements.
Right.
So those are they say it'll be seamless. It'll work the same way that Vivox works. You won't even know that it's there. It'll be transparent to the end user, which is the way it should be. End users deserve transparency and ease of use. So that's a very nice bit of good news, and I'll have that up later today.
Great. And yes, so I think
we can move on to Tangle Grid.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can. Before we do, yeah, I'm just going to quickly switch to Adam. Before we get into discussion, have you got any headlines, Adam, that we haven't covered in the course, major things you've covered during the last 7 days?
Well, I don't really think. I think I've covered just about everything I've brought up. Maybe Sexy Santa's doing the best. I guess maybe my rant about search working in open sim grids that are actually have currency and stuff. But I think I'd like to bring up something about Second Life, but that I think is a big head news. I mean, I think everybody's got around it that there's a new person that owns the best of Second Life, and here's this woman, Rain. I'll never get her name right. Rain Congero, who has stepped in, and for her first year, I mean, this is a very expensive thing, and done a fantastic job. I mean, fantastic, and did not put up with the drama. She just said, "Hey, you know what? We're doing the best we can." And you know what they raised for what's that? For RFL last month, Best of SL raised 412,000 lindens. I mean, that's just a group of people, and that's amazing. This is a big giving group. 412,000. I have to sit down with a calculator to figure out what that is for money.
Yeah.
But you know what? To take on something like that, you got to say, way to go, Rain. And you know what? And made it all the way through there because, wow, it takes a special person just to step in, buy a company, and just say, okay, I'm going to run it, and it's going to do good. All the drama that goes on in the background. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's a drama central kind of thing. I mean, and it's a company that is almost forever associated with Frolic Mills since he stepped down. So to actually take on that legacy rather than just take over the company, somebody as prominent as Frolic, they seem to be doing a very good job. Looking at the feeds and things from them, it obviously feels different now. It's the emphasis and the way the information comes out just feels like it's got a different flavor to it, but it's still as prolific as it was under Frolic. So.
Well, I've dealt with Frolic. Frolic, man, he built up a great thing and he sold it to another person. And, it's hard to step in and take over from something else. You just so many different angles and other things. And it's not a small company. And Rain had some, I thought for first year in, she learned a lot. She stood back. She didn't lose her temper. She just let it go through the motions, and she learned. So next year, oh my gosh, if this woman did this well stepping in, just think of what it's going to be like next year. I mean, this type of leadership's hard to find. And,
I think one of the lessons given some of the other subjects we're talking about is it's very welcoming to see somebody who's capable of ignoring the drama and getting on with the job. Yeah, this is.
Absolutely
a great attribute, the ability to block out the drama. Okay.
And I asked her, I said, I said, you're so proud of you. You did such a great job. She goes, she says, my team did a great job. She said, my team did. Look at the girls, look at the people. That's who did it. And that's the kind of leader you have.
Yeah, teamwork is all important, and recognizing the team as well. Okay, so let's start. Move back to Leslie.
Yo.
And well, my thoughts are entangled. Ha ha. Right.
Heard
No,
that one
I
before.
suppose Tangle Grid. We have Westworld now, which is a separate grid. We got that
Yeah.
sort of clear.
Yeah.
So the big news has been launching this grid, but Tangle Grid 2 is has been through a lot of changes recently. Anyway, it's opened up to the hypergrid fairly recently, didn't it?
Yes.
In the sense that I came in one day and I landed on your welcome bit, but in fact I was over at the board, look at all these wonderful destinations, and of course I couldn't get in anywhere. But within days, those particular regions, or lots of them anyway, had chosen to open up to the hypergrid too. So you've got a hell of a lot of stuff there. I mean, tell us a little bit about the history of Tangle Grid, maybe, if you will.
Well, it started out that it was supposed to be just a test grid for another grid that we were operating, running for someone. And we thought to ourselves, well, let's open up a grid and test the software before we implement it into another grid. Meanwhile, in between while, that particular person decided to move on and join another grid, couldn't put themselves together, and we got kind of left out in the cold. So we said, well, we got this one open anyways for testing. Why don't we just make it? Make it a grid. Invite our friends that didn't want to go with the merger and join us. And it was not too bad first while. And then, like all new grids, you have your ups and downs. You don't know what you're doing. My tech guy, Team at Carolina, has been phenomenal. He had no grid experience whatsoever, and he pulled us out. He really knows what he just learned so quickly. And then as for the Hypergate thing, we are Hypergate, but we're limited. There's no in and out at the moment. We have that kind of restriction. It's more for travelers to come look and walk around and see what's new, because the expo is about that. That's people showing their wares so that they can, Hypergaters come in and see what's going on the grid. They also see the expo, what people have, new technologies or new fashion or that sort of stuff going on.
Now, when you brought the grid online originally, was there any specific reason that you weren't hypergrid enabled initially?
Fear.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, because we didn't know anything about hypergrid. At that time we were talking about, okay, you cannot control copy bots. That's just life. But we kind of thought that was a gateway to it because we didn't know any better. We did our research eventually, and then we were starting to read about Hypergate and how the security has been upgraded and this and that and the other thing, and how we could switch this and that off. And we said, okay, let's try this. Plus, it also helps us if you can see our stats. You can see that our Hypergate activity is phenomenal. It's just they're coming and going like flies, which is fine with me. I like that. That.
So the moment you open the gates, whoosh, they're all poured in.
Got the raid out, the fly swatter, and
we had at least one safari visit there as well.
I think you guys have been there about 3 times. Actually.
I think, I think we have several times actually.
Yeah.
They're at different weeks. Like there weren't that many people last week. We didn't come to you, but the safari is getting bigger and bigger, and we keep it. You have to be careful which grids we go to, because some self-hosted grids will crash with a touring party of 30 arrive all in one foul swoop, and whoops.
Thanks. Crash.
But how do you have a great deal of commercial activity in forgetting the copyright permissions, because obviously if people want, they can put export permissions for the hypergrid, but do you have a very active economy in Tangle Grid itself for residents of that grid?
Not as much as we'd like. It's the same old story content. You can't have people in because there's no content. You can't have content in because there's no people. It's a catch-22 thing. So presumably people on your grid who are registered with your grid can in particular regions hypergrid out. Oh yeah.
And so they can pick up content elsewhere and bring it in.
I don't think so. Not with the way that the lockout is. If I'm not
okay.
mistaken, they can't
What ab-
really.
Do
do
you
that.
allow Kitely Market deliveries?
I don't think so. But
Mm.
I'm not the tech person, so
Mm.
in saying that, we would have to like I said, TMAC is really new at this, so I probably will pull some information on how that would work exactly. So maybe we could do that. It's not that we don't want to; we just don't know how. Maybe is a better answer to that question.
I think you'd find you could connect with Kindly because
I've
it's not a matter of traveling with stuff in a suitcase. It's Kindly will deliver to any specific grid or all grids. It's
Yes, I've posted the link to the instructions before. Last time I did a story on this, it's it's a configuration fee. It's not an obvious thing, but you have to do it on the configuration files for the grid, and it's something a grid administrator has to do to open up inbound deliveries because the content comes in over the hypergrid.
Okay.
So you don't have to allow hypergrid travelers. There's closed grids that accept Kitely Market deliveries just from the Kitely Market. So you can have it. So you can have both ways. You can have a closed grid and still
get the
allow your
shopping.
residents to shop on Kitely Market, and it means that your local merchants can sell stuff on the Kitely Market and have a link to the Inworld shops on your grid so people can come in person and browse as well for more content or to try things on and so forth.
Okay, yeah, maybe
think
you
of that,
can send me an email on that one where you have that link, and I'll give it to T, and he can take a look.
I will do that.
It's the thing about people know content sort of thing too. And if I guess if people on your grid who have retail there on your grid can can get people coming in for stuff that's maybe sold via Kitely, then those people coming in will subsequently get exposed to original content on your grid too. So cumulative. Yeah.
Well, we've had hypergriders come in and say, "How can I get my hands on that?"
Yes. Oh, click copy don't work.
Yeah. No. And I've told them, click on it, get the person's name, and send them an IM. Maybe they will be more than happy to bring it to your grid if you really want that object that badly. And because I know TMAC has made a grabby table, which is an offspring of greedy, and the boy can't get in without getting IMs. Can you bring that to my grid? Can you bring it to my grid? But
yeah, it does work. I mean, if you've got an individual contact with somebody, they can literally come over as their own avatar with the object in hand, and then I forget what happens. They can either res it on your LAN with permission, you take it, or I think they can just transfer it to your suitcase or something. So it's it's the personal touch there. So it's it does need a bit of traveling.
And for your viewers, my name is Leslie Spirit Weaver in Second Life, but I'm more known as Leslie Kling in all the other worlds.
Oh, of course, yes. I tend to introduce using Second Life avatars here because we're filming here, but
I had no choice, and they wouldn't change for me, the rotters.
So, Kling. That's KLIA.
ING.
Yeah, like Klingon without the.
Yeah, I get like that some days too. But it also helps that Adam is doing his shows there, and we're getting that exposure. I'm also one of these kind of people that don't get too involved with drama. They can keep it. I have better things to do with my time, I'm afraid to say. And now that I'm running with Westwood, I really don't have the time for drama or any of that other good stuff. And I'm one of these kind of people, you guys are adults, you work it out. If you can't work it out, then maybe you really have to be, maybe I will step in, but that's very, 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 very rare.
Indeed.
I don't need that. Trust me, I don't.
So Leslie, I've just posted the links in both local chat and Skype chat. Okay. So that's the Kitely link for how to enable the delivery.
Cool.
I've had fun working with Leslie. Basically, Leslie gives you enough rope. And what she does, she just lets you have enough rope, and you keep going. I will let you know something that I did. I checked that out at your sim coming in from the other grids, going into your sandbox, trying to do things that's wrong. You've got to set up perfect. You can't. I've tested it every which way but loose, pretty much. Yes, somebody can come in there and play in the sandbox, but it's not going to get transferred. You did a good job on that. So that lid is, that lid is covered.
Yeah, but it's also restricting the, like you say, the flow of content. Like this Kitely thing, I didn't know that you could actually keep the grid closed and have Kitely coming through. So
Yeah,
now I do know.
Kitely is like a bit of an umbrella system where you can,
Yeah.
if you don't want to open up certain things yourself, then you can just facilitate jumping objects from one place to another for a price.
I see some really great things going with Kitely as far as that goes. I mean, it's a different way of services. I see them as the next Amazon, basically, of the in virtual worlds. If you ask me, I think that's a great idea. There's things that I'm not going to say I don't like. There's things that depress me, but that's for another show. And I'm going to work with the grid owner before I do that show because I don't want it to come off negative. I want it to be explanatory. Do you know what I mean? I don't want negative because Leslie, Maria, and you guys, let me tell you something. If you saw my emails that came into me and they said, if you're really going to be a reporter, you should report this stuff. You should report this stuff. And you know what I say? Why don't we all just give good service and stop worrying about what the other you know what I mean?
It's funny, it's each to our own, really. I mean, in building our sim at the moment, I spent several hours on the Kitely market just going through everything conceivable they had on there that I think would be stuff I could use. And I found it fascinating. It was like using a Second Life marketplace. So obviously at the moment it's smaller and they didn't actually have many of the things I was trying to find. But I made good use of that, even though I actually don't go to the Kitely Grid that often. I've got a Kitely avatar, which I think I've forgotten what it's called. But the thing, it just like it says, used to our own. I went to a Dickensian reading by Caledonia Sky Tower on Kitely a couple of weeks ago. She was the first bit of A Christmas Carol. She was performing, reciting, and sort of performing, and after 30 minutes, you had to remember to say something in chat or activate something so it kindly didn't log you out. And that was just infuriating little thing that I thought, for crying out loud, I'm not the one that comes to a grid that tries to kick me out after 30 minutes,
You too, huh? Okay.
What is the point of this, So Kindly the Grid, I have great reservations about. Personally, although I'm not denigrating them anyway because they've got a system. And their back-end system is very different too, so there's probably good reason for it. But the marketplace, to me, like you say, it's like it's an SL marketplace at the Metaverse, and like an Amazon for virtual goods. So potentially, it's great. So I come back to you, Leslie. Obviously, you just said, of course, you've got your work cut out now with the launch of Westworld, the separate grid. How big is that at the moment? Is it just starting regions, or
we have 3 main regions. One is a sandbox, obviously.
Yeah.
Then you have your main landing, and then we have one that's in I think it's 32s or 16ths, parceled off for free parcels for people that don't really want a region, they just want to have somewhere to call home. Those are going quite. Matter of fact, I got 3 more I've got to put up tonight. If that fills up and I get more demand for them, I'll probably drop another region with another 16 on it. But
I want to add. I want to add. By the way, I was just on those parcels, and it is so cute. They're done with these Western style fences, with the mountains around it. Like normally when I come to a region that has parcels, it's very plain land.
And you have to look for the parcel line kind of thing.
Really ugly, and it's a sharp edge with the water. Um, and maybe sometimes it'll be like dressed up with little islands or something. But here it was a very nice little theme with the roads between them, and I really liked the fences. And one of the parcels had a broken down old building already
Yeah,
on it,
Jerry.
with a guy walking around
That's
it.
a bot. Yeah, he put that out there to keep it looking busy, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, that was really
maybe
cute. It was
maybe
really cute.
maybe we should head over there and film a sort of a high noon on the Metaverse as a machinima.
I got a conference room there in the main building for, if we ever have a grid meeting, so the chairs are there. But if you guys want to do a quick show over there, let me know and I'll slap you up a stage real quick.
Oh, I was thinking of dressing up as an Avatar cowboy and having a shootout with Maria.
Sounds good to me.
I was actually really impressed by the conference room. It reminded me of like one of those lodges you go to out west that are like a modern business facility, but are decorated with a Western theme. So there was
we
like
also have the
Western
Grand
rug.
Ole Opry over there.
Yeah, so it had like a Western rug, but modern chairs stacked up in this presentation room. So that was really cute.
Yeah, we got games over there. We got the Grabby over there. We got a Grand Ole Opry that actually has a shoutcast board, so we can DJ over there through Tango Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we have Tango Radio as well.
And I wonder how many country line dancing setups you've got.
In real life, I was actually I'm now retired, but I was a country artist promoter.
Oh, right.
In Europe, yeah. We've been to Germany, France, Belgium, England on the boat cruises, the whole 9 yards. I had about 40 in my stable.
When if I ever came across you in the UK, then
I was in Hull and York and Newcastle.
So I listened to that radio station, by the way, and it's not all country. They have a great mix, middle of the road.
That's me. I love to toss it around, put a little bit of cheeky girls in there, that sort of thing.
It really is. I think you do a great job. And when I first come out, I was like, okay, because I like good country. I do. I like good country. I would just wish they'd make more of it. And I was country when country wasn't cool. You know what I mean? And so a lot of this country I hear today is, I'm okay. Looks like, kind of sounds like progressive pop to me, but whatever.
Yeah, it's very rock country now. It's not like Patsy Cline, that sort of stuff anymore. No, it's Eric, what's his face there, and he might as well just
Emmylou Harris.
Sing rock.
Emmylou Harris.
Yeah.
Especially for me. No, I quite like that because it's what we used to, you used to call bands like Fleetwood Mac, AOR and stuff. And to me, what they call new country sort of is very much like that. So it's actually better because the only thing, it's more, like you say, it's more that adult-orientated rock. But a lot of it still conforms to the thing that I think that makes country music so special is its storytelling.
Yes.
And some of the new country does do that too. It's got the modern rock feel, as it were, but it keeps the tradition of the storytelling as well. So I like that a lot.
And the name Tango was originated with, if you notice my name tag on my head, it says the capital TANGL, capital G, capital LE.
Oh, I wonder, yeah.
That's T-Mac and Gary, Leslie, E.
Oh.
Get it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do now.
I kind of figured that. I knew that capital G had to do with Gary. I just kind of had that figured.
Yeah, there are three actual owners of Tango Grid and West World. You don't see too much of Gary and T because I call him T. He's the tech guy. He's like both those guys like to stay in the background. I'm the face of Tango, kind of thing, because I'm the talker.
Yeah.
But the other two, don't friend them because they don't like it. Well, it's not they don't like it. It's just they'll talk to you.
Reluctant.
But they're techies. They don't, it's not their thing.
Yeah, no, that thing. Anyway, they've got to get the work done. The last thing you want is them talking to people.
Yeah, I've got like 300 something on my friends list. And they got like 2.
And yeah,
Something like that.
unless it's another techie, fair enough.
But I know enough. Like I know enough that I can help my customers.
Right.
I just can't do it. If I don't know the answer, I get it. That's our big thing in Tango. You gotta be there to help. You gotta be there to service your customers. You gotta be there 24/7 if you can. I can't, but I try to be.
You stop and think about it, what Tango brings to the open sim stability. But the fact is, we're pretty giving. I'm over there, and I don't bring up Tangle that much. I really don't, and I. Studios is out there supporting everybody in all the grids, and you know what? That's pretty brave. She could have said, "Hey, dude, you're either going to talk about Tango, or you're going to take a road, you're going to take a highway."
No, because that was a deal we made, Adam. Like, I don't interfere. I stay out of, like we were talking about adult sims and stuff. If they do their thing, I'm fine with it. Just don't show up at the welcome center naked, because I'll boot your sorry butt. Yeah. But keep your stuff on your region. That's all I ask. And what you do there is, I don't care. But there is a limit. I will put my foot down if I see child pornography and that sort of thing. I will get a little testy. But
okay, I better be careful what I bring there then. Okay, we have this actually
child with a chain around his neck or something.
I was going to move on to something else actually, okay. And Adam, what Adam brought up then actually segues quite nice because. One topic, I suppose, on our minds at the moment is media, right?
Yeah.
In virtual worlds. Now, I know Adam told me that you very kindly, more or less, donated the studios to him, or that you just he mentioned
if you want.
Yeah, he mentioned something to you, I believe, and then he wandered off somewhere, and he came back, and you actually built the studios for him and everything.
Well, see, Nordegan was shutting down, and that was kind of like where he was parking his butt. So I thought, well, that's not really nice. One pulls out, and he's just kind of left standing in the sandbox kind of thing, like he said he was going to do. And it takes me, 10 minutes to build a building like that? For that little time, and it makes him happy. It brings something to Tango, and maybe not in such that he mentions it every 5 seconds or anything like that, but it does bring something to the grid. It brings
Leslie.
Oh, we're friendly. We're not.
Leslie did that for me. She's a brilliant business person. I got the email. The 20,000, a week for tier. Okay, sure. No, I'm just kidding. No, she didn't. It was
I wish.
It was free. No,
well, something very similar happened to us because but been my intention for a long while to have some kind of media sort of center on the hypergrid, where people can come to do films and not just do our shows, but if it's not been used for something else, people can use it to do shows or whatever they want. And we're in a similar position where Roddy, a great Canadian grid, be watching our show and says, "Oh, I'll give you a sim." And he's given one also to Winter Silversmith, who does the Current Journal from there. And of course, Adam, you are connected with him. You've got a backup. He's built you a studio there too. And we've deliberately sort of put ourselves together. Even the land texture is the same at the join, so it feels like a contiguous space, as it were. But it's quite fascinating because, as you say, your show, Adam, is strictly about Second Life, the hypergrid, the metaverse generally, and news. We do more discussion-y sort of things. Winter does these very sort of social kind of reports. Tabloid journalism, yes. I was trying to think of the word there. But there's all aspects of this here, and the whole thing is really about interconnecting. Obviously, Great Canadian Grid like the idea of being a center for media because
I
they'll
bet.
get loads of people popping in. But on the other hand, well, our very focus is on the whole hypergrid. So equally, we're going to be popping out, So, it seems to me that Tangle Grid, with you, Adam, certainly has a focus there on media, and Great Canadian Grid in their dealings with us the same.
Yeah,
And
but I
they don't sponsor us either. It's sort of
No,
it's
but I
still.
wouldn't want Adam to do that. I wouldn't want Adam to say tangle, 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 because his main purpose to be what he is to advertise everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only. Sometimes I see that in print, and I'm not mentioning any names, where we're at this grid, and I'm doing this.
Well, we had.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I can't really say the words and who and what and where, because then that makes me just as bad as the rest. But
Yeah,
I don't want him to do that.
When I was working with another company in Second Life, we did a sort of grid based program called Grid Wrap, I think, and it was sponsored by a grid owner. And within the first week, the grid owner had appointed themselves the co-host, even though you could never shut them up. They weren't exactly a very good host. And every conversation, even if it was an interview with somebody who had nothing to do with their grid or any other grid for that matter, the host was plugging the grid name and everything else. And, it was an advert. And it completely ruined for the editors. It completely ruined the show.
Well, that's my meaning.
Lost control. So, I love it. I love the way we all just keep it open these days. And
well, that's very important to me. That it's not that people don't get the impression that I got some kind of rope around Adam's neck and he has to stay there and he has to promote Tangle. No, it's completely the opposite. He's free to do and say what he wants. I might get a little bit testy if I hear something like Tangle Grid sucks while he's sitting in the office there, but if he has a real gripe, if it's a real problem, then he has the right to say it, even though he is sitting in Tangle Grid.
You've raised an issue. I'm going to bring this up publicly. I'm going to ask Adam. Because Adam will have no problem. I hope for once Adam will have no problem replying. Slightly critical. I'm obviously posting your daily news all over the place and things like that. And a lot of people don't quite click what Adam O Time something and all the little letters you've got before and after. It doesn't have a name like Metaworld News or you have Tangle TV sign behind you, for example, and why not? You could have Tangle, you could call it Tangle TV News and hosted by Adam O One Time. That's fair enough, but I kind of wonder if you can that much thought whether the YouTube identity of just Adam One O.
Well,
it's the individual.
It's always been 01 Time Studios. It's her grid. It's her sign behind there. And I like the TT. I like TT. I think it's great. Let's get on over to TT, baby. But the thing is that it's 01 Time Studios is presenting this 01 Time Productions, whatever. Yeah. And you know what? It is her TV. It's her sim. It's her sign. And you want to know what? Instead of being drama about it, embrace it.
I think you got me wrong. I think you've got me wrong, Adam. I think Tangle TV, for example, is a great name. No, that and Adam One Time Productions is fine. I'm talking about your show itself. When I
sign of yourself.
When I posted over to my blog, the title of the embed is Adam O One Time something or something. Something. It doesn't make it clear that it's the Daily News.
Well, okay. Yeah. So now we've got the brilliant minds together, brilliant minds together right now. How do you think we should do this? I mean, come on.
But I'm just making a personal comment. I think you could call it the program. You could call something like.
I think he means the title name.
Yeah. Tangle TV News, presented by Adam O One Time. Instead of a headline that just says Adam O One Time and then some words.
He has that hard time with zero, doesn't he? Adam 01 Time.
Yeah.
That's a binary because Adam's binary. That's I want to do Tangled TV. That's
But
fine, but it's not really.
Oh,
Well, I guess whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to call it Tangled TV, it's fine. But
No,
it's,
I think you're misunderstanding.
No,
yeah, you're yeah.
it's kind of like
Can I
the
get a word
Daily
in?
Show on the Comedy Channel. If you want to do that, the Daily Show.
Can I get a word in?
Oh yes, I do. Yes.
Adam, I think what the suggestion is when you're titling your daily posts, you need to think in terms of 25 characters. In other words, it needs to be short and snappy so that when somebody else posts it as a link, it makes sense.
Because right now it has a bunch of
It
numbers
com- it
behind it or
communicates.
something.
You're
It
100%
communicates.
right. You're 100% right,
Simple
and I'm
change-
working on
simple
that.
change,
And I'm
hard to
afraid
think
though.
about.
I mean,
I'm afraid to change it now. I mean, how about beginning of the new year, we turn it over to 01 time news or something like
well,
that.
that's what they're
Sure.
like in the
Yeah,
title
plan-
of
yeah,
the
sure.
film. I think they're talking about.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
Just
Adam,
plan a rollout and then then introduce it. That name change, same show, and just go forward.
yeah, I mean,
And you're
basically,
probably going to get better up to it.
Adam, basically, what you're doing is you're providing an amazing service.
Yes, agreed.
We did a show once a week to keep up with it. Until maybe we hand over to somebody a long way down the line. But you're doing this thing daily. You're in danger of exhausting yourself, but that's another matter. But you're doing a wonderful job. But
Yes.
every time I post it, people wonder what it is because the title of the post, the title of the film, is it starts with DJ, which people think might be music. We've got to remember people sitting in Bedco, but it doesn't start playing. They have to voluntarily start playing it. So they need to know what it is. And it should include the word daily, it should include the word news, and it should include the word date, the date. And and then it could be presented by Adam one time, Adam 0 one time. but why not just put Tango News or Meta News or something that is a very short identity for what the program is, and then is followed by the date. And you can always put in the comments about the program what the details of the events in the program are.
Well, I always wanted it to be the 01 time show. All right.
There
I mean,
you go.
that's what it's
Right.
always been. Actually, is the 01 time show. Not even Adam.
Right.
It's just 01 time show.
Yeah.
And the DJ came from. That's a snub in the face of. I had a sim and I had. At all go in there because people say this guy he doesn't work for nobody. I'm like, okay, but so that was my snubs, DJ Adams 01 time, and I've taken that and I've used that for a while just so people would know. Look, I do a lot more than just DJing, folks. I mean, DJing to me is so simple I can almost go to sleep doing it. But if you want to DJ really good, you better get up and work hard. But that's besides the point. I think you guys are right. Brilliant minds came together. I think it ought to be the 01 time 01 time program. What do you come on? 01 time.
Remember what it is, Adam. It's a news show.
Yeah.
You've got the G
reports,
spots, you've got the personal comments, you've got the news and stuff. But basically, I would think the word news because when somebody sees that blog posted, they're going to think, the daily news about the metaverse.
Yeah.
And, this has nothing to do with your identity or anything like that, which is fine. I'm just thinking of the way you could advance that show as a daily news show. And so that for example, when I post it to a blog, it goes to my Twitter stream and people can follow it if they can make sense of what they're following. Somebody like Double Down Tandino automatically retweets my tweets, so it goes into his stream. But but other people don't retweet it because they don't understand what it is to retweet it because the time.
Yeah. In other words, Adam, the title you give it is going to have a life outside of your immediate control. So it needs to communicate in a way that people say, "Oh, that sounds interesting. I'm going to click on that." Or it's relevant, that. Therefore I'm going to retweet it. And they're not going to rewrite the title for you.
Well, here's the problem. If I call it Tangled TV,
I don't want you
If
to
I
call
call
it
it-
Tango.
But if I do call it Tangle
This-
TV, people are going to think they're going to associate that I'm only Tangle.
So don't call it Tangle
No,
TV.
don't.
No.
So call it what
Call
you
it
want. Call it something
Metaverse
else.
TV, Adam TV.
Yeah, but she's got a big whip, and she's training me for
No.
Femdon right now.
Hello?
Call it 01
No,
TV.
It's,
01 TV.
it's not something you're going to think up right now. It's just a
Or-
suggestion
Yeah.
that particular show, being a very valuable daily news show for the Metaverse,
I really thought it would be a great
Good.
01 time morning show, is what I thought. I've tried
Call
to get it out
that.
by
Call
I
it 01
tried to hit
time
the,
morning show.
yeah, and I've tried to make sure that the show is on YouTube by 10 a.m. PST time,
Yeah.
game time.
But do
Yeah.
you
And-
want to call it a show, like
Yeah.
Or do you
'Cause I
want to
think you're
call?
gonna have
Do you want
dancing
to call
girls.
I don't
it-
really want to call it a show either. I think
No,
it's more of an
just call it
information.
news. It's news
Yeah.
or info. Yeah.
More like
Or-
a,
or
like
report.
mean
Mhm.
every day. Good morning, America. No, but you can't do that.
You could maybe play on something like, instead of using the whole Adam 01 time, you could use the concept of time, daily time.
Yeah, that's what I did. The zero. Got out of the 01, and there's a lot of reasons why.
It
okay?
depends. To be honest, it depends on how much you want your own name to be tied into the show as a show name, as opposed to a show presenter. It's we're just making suggestions, but it occurred to me that you are probably losing hits from a news standpoint by not making it clear that it's news.
I never named it Adam 01 Time. I mean, the beginning of 01 Time Studios was never even named by me. There was this wonderful person that's in here. I'll mention her name. Years ago, she made that logo for me for a club I had. And she called it 01 Time Studio, because I did everything from DJ to video. And that's Alessa and Brianna. That's matter of fact, that's Miss Virtual World right now. And she said, "Hey, you know what? Get rid of the Adam, call it 01 Time, and people will take you more serious." And I'm like, okay. So I listened to it, and not only that, it was a really pretty logo. It was a real pretty.
Yeah, actually, your brand, for the all your shows. I mean, before you started doing this, I've been getting I got your feeds regularly for various events you filmed and stuff like that, and I was very familiar with your logo at the beginning. That is absolutely fine. That's like a production logo. It's not the name of the show. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with anything you've been doing. It's just my one thought is that the Metaverse for the first time has a daily news show, and if that particular show had a name that made it damn clear what it was, I think it would get more traction. But it's entirely up to you.
Why don't we put it out tomorrow on the show and say, hey, we got to use 01 Time, and what should we call this?
Yeah.
I really want to get rid of the Adam part. I really do, because everybody knows Adam's going to be on it. But the 01 Time has been my trademark for so long that
Make sure it's part of your new title. That's it.
Yeah.
Or
But,
01 Time reports or news broadcast or whatever.
There's some brilliant people out there that will do great.
Actually,
that will come up with some great ideas.
See, actually, 01 Time without the Adam and without all the prefixes and stuff like that is actually fine, because we make an intuitive link. It's just contextualization, really. We do this show. It's called the Inworld Review, which we named when we moved to Inworld. But our parent show, which no longer exists, but used to be, this used to be a segment within another show called the Metaverse Week in Review, which we named because that's what it was. It isn't like the Meta World Broadcasting Weekly. It's got a name that symbolizes what it is. The parent company and the production is a separate ball game. That's consistent throughout, but it's not something we put up front because we're putting the show up front.
So let's throw it out there to the people. What do you think? So we got to bring virtual in. You got to bring real life in. So you got to have it's got to have 01 Time. It's got to have virtual and real life. and it's of course it's going to be the time because the 01 times virtual real life show is still too long. We need it short and snappy, but we need it to be able to get that information across. I agree with you.
01 time news.
There you go. Nailed it.
Okay,
coming from TT, I had to say that. Oh, that's the great thing.
Right. Well, now I'm going to put somebody else on the spot here because talking of news and broadcasting, right? Adam's Winter Silversmith, who was on with you last week, of course, Adam. Informed me. I think it was yesterday that Maria Gorilov was asking for photos of our build and comments about what he was doing hosting it and everything. So for the last 24 hours, I've been glued to the post coming from Hypergrid Business to see if we get our feature. Maria.
Well, so I was going to do a little story about the studios opening up on Great Canadian Grid. And I wanted a couple of quotes about, from people involved about, what Great Canadian Grid thinks of supporting the media and what you guys think of the Great Canadian Grid. So I'll send out an email to you and clerk as well.
I keep popping over to Hyperion all the while.
Hyperica, like America.
Yeah, Hyperica. Sorry, spelled with a K. No, sorry. Right. Hyperica. I keep popping over to Hyperica, and another one was called Sanctuary. In fact, we played a little game on the Safari last week where all the points we visited were kind of portals. So your grid was one of the ones we visited. We went to Sanctuary, and then we went to one on Metropolis, and all these are like airports to hypergrid stations. Mm-hmm. So nobody got anything done because they were too busy exploring all the links, of course. But we're just going on this, the 5 jumps of the day were hypergrid stations. So then ultimately people are hypergridding on from there and going all over the place. It was great fun, I hasten to add. But I've never seemed to end up on Hyperica when you're there, because I want to friend you with my Great Canadian Grid avatar, and I want to get you into the MetaWorld group.
Email me, catch me on. I'm always on email.
Yeah, I'm in there now. Come, good log in. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, no, that was exciting because no, it was Roddy. Sorry, it wasn't Winter. It's Roddy himself who came along and says, "Okay, to take some photographs for Maria."
Yeah.
So he was doing that last night, or the night before, I forget which. Okay, all good news. But I can't wait. Basically, for those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about here, our media center will be opening fairly early in the new year, a MetaWorld Broadcasting Sim on the Great Canadian Grid. And be open for anybody who wants to come and use it, basically, as long as you don't come when we're doing something at the same time, basically. But there's
reservation board.
Yeah, there's more than enough space, So, I don't know if Maria fancies interviewing somebody, for example, she could just hop in there and do the interview, and I could film it or whatever. It's yeah.
You know what scared me was everybody started talking about this Great Canadian Grid. And I would go over there to do a show or look at it and do news, and it's not ready, guys. Story ready, and the owner Roddy will tell you it's not ready.
No, so a lot.
It's not.
Yeah, a lot been done. That's why
the hype is killing people. It's like the hype, and I'm like, don't invite me over there. I mean, I don't want to do a story on this. I think Kevin's, going to do a story. I'm like, no, because there's things that got to be done. And Roddy Roddy's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to take his time and do it right. There's, don't put the horse before the cart. I mean, the cart before the horse.
No. This is, well, I mean, we haven't really publicised it. Some other people have, but so much yet because it isn't ready. The grid itself got a reboot, about 6 days ago, which has made huge differences to performance and connectivity and stuff. But there's a lot. There's a lot going on there, and it's a comparatively small grid at the moment. But it's fast. It's on fast servers for one thing, and it works. And anyway, we're offered it. It wasn't like I was hunting around for grid hosting and stuff like that. So well, if at the end of the day, it's always going to be somewhere. And short of putting my own simulator online and going through the headache of trying to manage it all, it's better I just choose a location on the hypergrid. And rather like Leslie was saying, you have a location with her, and there's no on the hypergrid. It doesn't really matter where you are. To me, the emphasis
The news
on
is
what
the important.
yeah, the emphasis on what we're doing is the facility and the idea of it being there, rather than for Great Canadian Grid any more than Tangle Grid for you.
Do you understand why I picked a grid that's kind of closed? Because Leslie can control pretty much anybody that enters that grid.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal, because in the news, sometimes you step on toes. You know that.
Yeah.
And, she's taking a big risk by actually having me in there because I may step on toes. So there's a point where you say, hey, we got to be a team here. And I think Great Canadian Grid, you guys work with media, you might want to look at her model of what's going on sometimes. Kylie's got it set up that way. They've got it set up so there's certain places you can go and you can't. So you got to be, careful. Security is a big deal.
I think that's why I have my own grid, is because I've pissed off. I think every single grid. I think every single grid owner at this point thinks that I hate them the most. They will call me in the middle of the night saying, "Why do you always pick on us?" Or "Why do you never mention us?" Either way, I lose. If I talk about them, why am I always picking at them? If I don't talk about them, why are you always mentioning the other guy, not us? So it's yeah, and then there's the political stuff. One grid gets mad at the other grid, cuts off traffic to the other grid, and so on and so forth. And the other thing was the unscheduled downtimes with my own, especially with filming or productions or meetings.
Yeah.
I want to be in control of my own upgrade schedule.
Yeah.
And that means so that I know when the grid will be up. And that means that you have to have your own grid. So I've had Hyperica up for probably almost from the very beginning as a separate grid. I had a region on OS grid at first, but I moved it off grid really quickly because of the upgrades.
It makes perfect sense. I mean,
and I'm glad I did, because I've avoided all the drama with everything really, because I'm hypergrid enabled. I can go anywhere I want. If a grid decides to ban traffic from Hyperica, well, I really don't care. It's like banning Google from indexing your site. The only person you're hurting is yourself. Go ahead, do that.
No, I mean, what you say actually makes perfect sense. And I've got to say that given the number of times I go to Hyperica to make a jump, I don't think I've ever once seen it down. I always get in straight away, and hopefully get.
All my gates are always down.
Anybody know what's going on with Lost World? I mean, I picked up all my beer cans. I pick up my beer cans when I'm in Hyperica. I pick up all my beer cans when I'm in Lost World on his boat. I went back and picked them up, but I haven't been able to get into Lost World. Is there a problem? What's going on?
Wasn't he for a while? He moved over to Aviworlds, and then you know what happened there.
Oh, lordy.
So yeah, Lost World was one of those that merged with Aviworlds a couple months ago.
Oh.
and then that's a black hole of grids.
Well, if you think about it, yo-yos are basically held up by a piece of string, and a, a chain is only as good as its weakest link. So if you're hanging on with a piece of
Gravy.
string, if
They
you're
picked
hanging
on the
on with
wrong
a
guy.
piece of string,
They picked on the wrong guy. I'm telling you, if they picked on Joe Builder, they picked on the wrong person on this mess up.
yeah.
Anyways, let's hope that this all winds down and they all get their
Hey,
acts together
half
and
my
the end of
readers,
that stuff.
half my readers
man.
come from that scandal.
Oh,
Shush.
lordy. Marie, you got more important things to write about, girlfriend. Jeez.
Well,
this is my little girl in the well.
Good gravy.
Well, I agree, Maria, that it does make sense to have a good review.
Well,
It's much
see,
better in
my
management.
philosophy. I mean, and it's, so I understand where you're coming from, Leslie, because it's like really trivial stuff. But the thing is that OpenSim is so scary for a lot of people that the concept of OpenSim, the technology of OpenSim, the unknown, the hypergrid, it is
Agreed.
so complicated and scary that humanizing it with something funny, with personalities that are clearly, the Alex battle soap opera makes it accessible to anybody because anybody can understand what a mess Alex is making
then-
because it's on a very human level.
Then
And
you got
it's
to put a
funny
tab
and it's
on your
amusing.
website. Then you got to put a tab on your website as the Abbey World turns, and then they can
Yeah.
click on that, and they got it all.
Well,
They
the
got it
Korean Journal already did that. They have this
Oh.
Happy World
yeah.
turns.
I mean,
Oh.
maybe they could just abandon their grids and start a TV show, a soap opera.
There you go. You can take it over to Canadian,
Well-
Great Canadian Grid. They got a station over there. I heard a TV lot or something like that. Knock yourselves out.
Well, what
I would love
scares
to
me
see
is
TV shows
what-
filmed in here.
what
Or
really
soap
scares me is people might be laughing, think this funny, but you got to look at what international law and federal law, our federal laws, look at what data is. Data is real. It is a real substance that can be held in court. And so when you start transferring stuff, you start transferring people's contracts and their data to other servers, these people have to be notified. And this is getting scary at this point. It's been transferred around,
And
transferred around.
PMCAs are going to be thrown in
And
there too.
it's at some point somebody's going to say, wait a minute, guys, you know what? You need to shut it down and start over fresh and stop messing with these people's stuff. Cut your loss and go on.
And
cut
how
your
about
loss.
the money that gets eaten up? They invest all that money, like have money in your account. They close the grid down. Where does that go? Too bad, so sad.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where does your money go when that one other grid bans you and you can't get in to even get your money out? What do you do then? Come on.
Nothing, because it's a fictional game token. Every terms of service spells that out. So that's why
Exactly.
never keep more money in a virtual currency than you can afford to lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say that like I think every week.
You say it every week, yeah. And I'm afraid I'm looking at our clock, and we've just gone over our 2 hours.
Ooh,
For
yeah.
our
Yeah,
wonderful,
because we're having fun.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, it's
first when I brought up the fact about a real life situation with Sony Pictures, whatever. It's a fact. You guys heard it from a virtual world that I nailed it. That Sony, this was the biggest scam. This is the biggest corporate bull that ever went on in order to cut out their distributors. They went straight to YouTube. They went straight to distribution. This has been the biggest phony cyber war between companies. And I'll tell you what, 230 ITs that were fired. And you want to know what? Who picked that story up from me? I usually pick it up from them. The Young Turks did, because I sent them on that. I said, look, you guys got to look at this. 3 days later, he's on it. The Young Turks. So you guys heard it from Adam 01 time first. The end of the cinema theater as we know it is on the way out. And it's because what we do right here, the virtual world's coming to the house. And that's where we used to see the virtual world in sense around, big screen in the theaters. But it's in your home. That's what's going on.
There's only one snag if we're talking about the interview and this wonderful publicity that they've even entailed the government into getting on to North Korea. North Korea, although all the evidence is suggesting North Korea had nothing to do with it. But the funniest thing is now it's out and everybody's seen it. The critics are panning it. You know, it's the biggest publicity for a film ever, and it's awful, apparently. They had to do something, I guess, didn't they? Oh, dear. Okay, well, thanks, Adam. Let's go to our next special guest, Leslie.
Yeah.
Anything exciting being happening else that you'd like to share with us and coming up?
Yeah, Tangle Grid is moving up to the 8.1. We're doing it slowly. We're going to do it region by region, and we are going to be offering VARs, but nothing over 9x9 or 3x3, I guess, equals 9 regions. Yeah. Because still, you got the improved viewers, and you got a few of the others that cannot handle the big ones. So, what would be the point exactly? Yeah. Westwood is doing very well considering it's only been open a week. I don't understand it, but hey, I'm cool with it. What else?
I think the big teller was what you said earlier. The moment you open to the hypergrid, you've been swamped.
Yeah. And let's see.
Winterfest Expo is still on.
Yeah, until the 4th of January, and then we go up to the House and Garden. There's next
House and Garden on the 17th. Yep.
Yep. And we got I think it's 5 for the year this year, not every month, but spread out a little bit further and a little bit longer per expo, so everybody has a chance to come see it. They might miss it. Mm-hmm. We would like to get more participants, more hypergrid people, and that sort of thing, showing their wares. I find that and they're allowed to put up on their walls, available at Kitely's Market or available on this grid. I got no problem with that. It's the whole idea of an expo is to show your wares and what you got going on and stuff. So I got no problem with that.
And that really is one of your major selling points as a grid is the expos.
I call you guys the known for their expos. The grid known for their expos.
And everything's going as planned, scheduled, like I said, for the 8.1, the VARs, the Westwood. But if you would like to invite me back again, let's say in a month or so, we can get you caught up with Tangle's up to.
Ooh, I think she's going to have fashion over there in February.
Yes, we're having a fashion.
Yeah, I actually think we should definitely make a point of getting you on every weekend before a new. If no, welcome back anytime, of course. But
especially for the expos.
Yeah, especially when a new expo is about to open. You can come
I'm available. I live in Holland. I'm a misfit Canadian and end up in Holland, but
good grief, it's an hour later for you than it is for me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only 2:30 in the morning. No problem.
I noticed when I earlier you said, well, thank goodness I had a nap.
Yeah, I'm used to it though. I've been doing this for now 3 or 4 years, and my nights are actually my days. Yeah, because everybody's on at night, but I do come in the morning at 5 in the morning. Because I've also got, I'd say, 60% of my grid, if not 70, is British or European. So I have to be there for them too. So what I do is I come in at 5, I do my thing with TMAC, do any upgrades, moving and whatever, answer all my IMs, and then around 12 o'clock I go have my lunch, go for a 2-hour cat nap, and then up and stay up till midnight and do that every day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
I local time to the UK. I'm up to about 4 a.m. every night, so I'm definitely on New York time,
Yeah.
London or not.
If
Well,
you
we have to, Mel, because we're just that's where most of our people.
That's where.
if you ever want to do this, I would love to run a little piece diary in the day of a grid owner, explaining what you do during the day, so people who are interested in starting up their own grid can kind of have some idea of what goes into it.
What they're getting,
Sure.
what they're getting
Yeah.
into, more
What they're
like.
What you're getting into, exactly. Yeah, no problem.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Maria. Any final thoughts from you? Exciting
Oh.
stuff at the last week or coming?
Yes. So I have kind of have permission to announce this. ZetaMex says they're going to be going back up on January 1st, accepting new customers. So Alex Pomposelli, if you're listening, change your name and sign up for their hosting service. And see if you can sneak your grid back on their servers without them noticing. So they've got great prices. They ranked well in our survey, second only to Dreamland, and the prices are about half the prices of Dreamland. They'll be really nice. And take that survey about your favorite freebie places on the hypergrid. Let me know, and I'll be writing that up this week.
Great.
Cool.
So finally, Tara,
Poor thing.
you're round up. She's
Oh well.
poor thing. No, well, you have been busy on camera, and thank you very much.
Yes, and
that's good.
I've gotten a word or two in edgewise, a time or two. In between trying to keep track of which headphones and which mouse I'm using, which is kind of an interesting transition. I'm sure
you can do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't multitask, and I know that, and I avoid it like the plague. But I think the coming week is probably going to be highlighted by continuing to mangle prims and terraform and that sort of stuff in the new OpenSim space, and enjoying a bit of downtime and less frenetic pace of my part-time pay job. And wishing everyone a very happy New Year, because that's going to be between now and when the next show happens.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Happy New Year, all.
Absolutely. Well, that's just what I was thinking too.
I got a party going on over at Tango. If y'all want to join, I got free beer.
And we'll start taking bets.
And
we'll start taking bets on how long it takes Mal before he gets 2015 under his belt when announcing the date of the week's show.
It'd take about 6
Oh, well,
months.
forget New York time. Maybe I should move to the Chinese New Year. That would make much. That'll give me plenty of time to think about it. Very true. I've got the camera back on you, Leslie. Quickly, when's your party?
The 31st.
Right.
From 11, I think it's 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. PST time. But if it's happening and it's going on as a rocking, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
That's simple.
So that'll be evening here in Europe too. So
Yeah, it's our early evening for us.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So if you need a New Year's party to go to, folks, you've just heard where and when it is.
And I'm sure Adam will be there wearing his little Christmas outfit.
Yeah, come
I haven't found one like that inside.
Yes,
inside,
this is the cue, folks. Come and meet the media people on New Year's Eve.
There you go.
Yep. And that's
Maybe
where,
get Alex to come on over and show us.
that's when all the harassment starts.
Get Alex from Abbeville to come on over and show us how it's done. You know.
New Year's Eve will be our official condescension to drama.
Yeah.
For
The wind down.
to last for the whole next year, hopefully. We won't need any more of it thereafter. Okay. Well, time to wrap, as they say. I'd like to thank all our guests, of course. Adam O'Time, thank you very much.
He's there somewhere.
Adam 01 time, thank you very much.
Adam C. You're welcome.
I was just going to say, how on earth can Adam suddenly have gone mute? Not possible, is this?
Lost his train of thought.
Oh man, did I miss something?
Anyway,
We're
okay.
supposed to say goodbye.
And thank you, Leslie.
Anytime,
Leslie-
anytime. Had a fun. It was a
Leslie
ball.
Kling.
Leslie
So-
Kling, yes.
Yes, I said.
AKA Spirit.
I
Jesus,
shall
whatever.
endeavour to cling to the memory of that name so I won't forget it again.
If you want to kind of have this mental picture of me dressed up in a Klingon outfit, be my guest.
Yeah.
Except for the things on the forehead. That's kind of weird.
I'm going to cling to you. I'm going to cling to you.
There you go. Work that way.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for being here, and I
You're
hope,
very welcome.
I hope we will be seeing you again very soon indeed. So wonderful. And Maria, of course, many thanks to first co-host Maria, so to speak.
Always fun to be here, Mel. Thanks
Want
for having me.
if you want links during the week, follow Meta Maria. Meta Maria. No, Meta Maria on Twitter.
Already.
On twitter.com, and you can also follow Hypergrid Business on twitter.com, or indeed you can go to hypergridbusiness.com direct and see what's latest on the front page. So yes, thank you, Maria. And Tara, of course. Thank you, Tara.
You're most welcome.
I have one little quick thing to say. Quick
Yep.
thing. Maria, keep up the good work, girlfriend. You're doing an excellent job, and don't let anybody put you down. You're doing a fantastic job, girlfriend.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to finding out exactly what goes into the day of a grid owner.
Uh-huh. You're gonna wish you hadn't
I
said
think
that.
we'll find out that your job is much, much harder.
Keep smiling. That's
Okay.
all I gotta do is keep smiling.
All right. Okay, folks. Well, it is a wrap. If you want to watch this program in replay, it will be posted tomorrow. That will be the 28th. It'll be up on YouTube, and you can find a high-resolution replay, plus all our previous shows at slartist.com, SLARTIST.com. And the versions there should work on everything you throw it at it. Apple pads, Apple phones, Android pads, Android phones, Windows desktops, Linux desktops, Mac desktops, smart TVs,
And
And-
Google Glass.
and I'm not sure about that. And I certainly wouldn't want to try watching us on an Apple Watch. Not that I even have.
Holy Lord.
Not that I even have an Apple Watch, but I mean, you get the idea. Just how many places do you really need to be? Anyway, Slartist.com for all our back shows, and it'll be live and posted here, there, and everywhere by tomorrow. So we will be back next week, of course, and it will be the new year by then. I will reiterate once again, we all wish you a wonderful, happy new year wherever you are. And that actually brings me to my sign-out line, so I messed it up, didn't I? So it's good morning. It's good morning. It's good afternoon. It's good evening. And indeed, it's good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are.
Oh man, way off the air.
We are now.
Way to go, Adam.
Good.
Nice one, Adam. You haven't quite got